We just played the theme song. I blocked it out of my head that was Danny. You play that again, Jared. Danny put that together in
95, 96.
This is when you were just a listener? You did this?
Yeah.
Wow. Danny created this.
I'm sorry. It's so insane.
The Danny voice.
It's got a butthole surfer quality to it. Yeah, it's got that corn C guitar.
Stop it if you would, Jared. Kind of lead us through the creative process.
Originally, the song was written in French.
Oh,
I had to use Google Translate before it was invented.
Oh, nice.
Into your English language.
Is this the last symposium?
Yes.
Thank God. I can't believe we actually filled the room for this symposium. Was there anybody left outside? Yeah. Oh, Lord.
I'm so sorry, guys out there. Do you realize what happened earlier with the ticket ticker symposium? People refused to come in. I swear to God. This one they could be at the front of the line to get into this one. I came in at the end of it and there was like 11 people in it.
See, Ty said, and he made a good point, that this should have been a 2-for-1. You had to go to the
All right, so let's hear from the people outside in the hall.
You gonna tell them how bad they suck now? Losers!
Can't even get in line.
Okay, so we are here to talk about the... Okay, so I was doing it at night first, and then somehow it moved to the mornings, which I don't remember. I think I would have come prepared and actually reviewed the timeline, but I didn't. And when I started off, I think it was just me and who was the board up at night? Was Davey the board up at night?
I don't know.
Great.
I thought he was your producer. Like you needed a air quote producer in this day.
He might have been. I can't keep it straight because you both were at various times. One of you was the board op and one of you was the producer.
Should probably address the glaring omission here.
Oh yeah, Dave Lane got sick and passed away. No, he is down in New Orleans right now with his lover.
Yeah. I'm sure his liver's doing great.
And he couldn't make it, so he couldn't make it out here to Ticketstock because he's taking his girlfriend or fiance or wife. What is she now?
I think this is number 3.
Fiançois.
Are they married now?
No, they're going to be.
Oh, really? Okay, so he's going to try marriage one more time.
Yeah, why not?
Well, good for him.
Okay, so I know for a fact that I started running the board because my moves at the ticket was intern and then the weekend overnight board op.
Which is the lowest position at the ticket.
Yes, the absolute lowest. Thank you. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Friday and Saturdays. And then I got a promotion, and the promotion was to run the board on Saturday mornings from 6 a.m. to noon.
Right.
But that didn't last very long either. And then I started, I was doing they offered me the golf show. I somehow weaseled my way into the golf show.
Co-host on that.
And then that would spill over into, we would mix with you guys and for an hour.
Oh yeah, I would always do the old gag of, hey Corby, I need you to stay around, there's a story that I want you to chime in on.
Yeah,
and then I would keep pushing the story to the next segment, the next segment.
And then what would end up is we would go to lunch after the show at noon. I'd be there for, whatever, for 7 hours, and then we'd start drinking. Sometime around then.
So bad,
Yeah.
so irresponsible. But, and I didn't even know the show had gone on for 10 years. I remember that's why I quit doing the Rant, was when one time I asked Davey how long we've been doing this, and he told me the date, and it had been, it was right at 10 years. We'd just gone over 10 years. Or we're coming up on 10 years, and so I said, well, why am I still doing it? Because there's no reason for me to come in on the weekends and do this show. So we just quit it because we had gone 10 years.
In 05,
it was the most unceremonious dumping of a show I've ever seen.
In 05, which was the 10th year, I had a kid, and I remember 3 weeks after I had the kid, I'm like, you know what? I can't do the Saturday thing anymore. It's just too much and too busy, and I I need some time or whatever. And you're like, well, I mean, I guess that's it. You know? Yeah. And that was really it.
So I'm curious as to how many of you actually listened to the rant when it was on, because that was a long time ago, and some of you had to have started listening to the station afterwards. So there's a few. 3 for those of you waiting outside. Only 3 people in here.
I will say that I had more fun on that show. To this day, I had more fun on that show than I had any other thing that I've ever worked on. Mainly because you didn't have to do anything. You just showed up and we just started talking. It wasn't about like preparation. It wasn't about planning. It wasn't about anything. It was just showing up.
Because it was such a throwaway show, so we didn't feel any need to do any preparation, and it was just an improv fest. And so many of the things that ended up being done during the week on programs were started on the rant, like layouts. That was a rant thing.
Yeah.
There was one time we had over a 5-minute layout of the rant, and
The off-air lights
yes, the
flashing.
engineer kept calling up there because we have this system to where if the transmitter goes down, you know, a red alert goes off to our engineering staff to try to get the transmitter back up, and it kept being tripped because the silence would go past whatever it is, 15 seconds. And you hear that. And we kept it going for 5 minutes, and that did not go over well with the engineering staff, but it developed a layout which became very useful for us during the week, which we love layouts now. And what else would we start on that rant? There were a few different things.
Phone calls.
Phone calls. We had this idea, what if you took a phone call on the radio? And it worked out well for us, and then we brought that into the weekday lineup as well. All right, we'll open it up to questions because we only have 2 minutes left. So, yes, sir.
So, the content.
How long is this question? I said we only have 2 minutes.
Did y'all ever get in trouble for the content of the rant?
I don't remember us getting in trouble
Never.
for it, which is
No one
strange.
ever said a
Are
word.
you kidding me?
No one ever said
Because
a
we
word.
pushed the envelope pretty far during that.
I mean, I was driving kids to
Wait.
one cent right here.
Gosh.
And, I'm like, well, turning the dial. I'm turning down the dial. I'm like,
Is that your sister? Or you got your arm around her? That's a little weird. Never, I don't remember us ever getting in trouble for anything that was done on the rant.
Danny did bring up a good point, though. There was something replayed on the rant that almost got Danny and I fired. No.
It's an ice cream commercial.
Yeah, we did it.
Some of you might
Yes,
remember.
yes.
We did an ice cream commercial that was a knockoff on Bluebell. You know the Bluebell jingle, the real country sounding and all that.
Do we have that, Jeremy?
And we did that we called it
Someone uploaded that to YouTube.
Yeah, we did one called Country Cream.
The country was spelled offensively.
And it was basically just about
there's children.
Oh yeah. Ice cream being made via human parts. All natural.
So very natural.
All natural. Well, anyway, we played it on the
It
hard
was
line.
part of the whole penis to table movement that was going on in things.
And then they replayed it on the rant.
Yeah.
And then the guy from Bluebell called up.
I was listening on that Saturday morning.
Yeah, because they're very similar.
They sound exactly alike.
Right. And then that's the closest I've come
It's
to
on YouTube. I know.
losing my job.
We got called
Bacon is a fried and the biscuits on the grill. Daddy's on the front porch, strumming on his fiddle.
Yeah, it exists. I know that. But you know what? The thing is, I can't believe we never got called in. I think it was because it was Saturday morning and no one of import from a management side was listening, or there were no older people that were expecting us to do car talk or something like that were listening. It was we felt everybody that was listening was our age, with our sense of humor, with our zaniness and all that. Or at least that's the way I looked at it.
Except for Norm. So Norm tunes in, and here's the famous JFK show, which I have a lot of regrets in life. About 60% of them occurred on the rant. So that broke during our show, I think.
That's so weird. You know, like there was a space shuttle disaster that happened too on that show.
I know, which when you think of the show to handle a disaster, so JFK's plane had gone missing the night before, and the story breaks the next morning when we're on the air that they believe JFK Jr., talking about JFK Jr., was dead. And so Davey was the one who made the worst comment about it.
Which was always the case.
Yes, and I took it in the shorts from Norm about making jokes about JFK Jr. Now, I did make some jokes about...
Well, he died in Gay Head.
Yeah.
And so
JFK Jr. went down on Gay Head. That's where his plane crashed. And so it was the actual name of the place, Gay Head.
Right.
We couldn't handle that.
No.
Not responsibly.
Yes, not responsibly. So there was some fun had with that, and then Davey asked the most offensive question of all time, whether or not JFK Jr. I can't even say it, it's so bad, got compressed down to the size he was when he saluted his dead daddy's wife. It's horrible.
And then we had him as like this, like a cartoon accordion.
You know, that happened a lot. Davey was always the one who would push it.
He's still
It's still that way. I hosted with him for a week over the holidays, and he's still got radio blue balls. He's pent up, and then he gets on the air and just unleashes on everyone. No filter.
No filter. And so Norm heard that whole show, and then called on me to be fired, and then he confronted me the first day that he was on the station, on the ticket, when he came over from KLIF. He confronted me about the JFK Jr. thing, and he goes, I just want you to tell me, what is funny about a son saluting his dead daddy's coffin? I don't know, Megan, you say dead daddy's coffin? Oh man. Do it. So yeah. Fire him!
There are like a trillion things that I think about that, I mean, there were times when I was cry laughing to the point where, I mean, it hurt. I was crying so hard, and the funniest one for me was, I had an incident when I was 4 years old where I went camping with my parents.
Is this your daddy's ding-dong cabin?
Yeah. And the story, to make it brief, was my parents were outside. We had this little pop-up camper. My sister and I were like 4 and 5 years old or whatever. And so we're supposed to go to sleep. I knew my parents were outside, and I knew where they hid all like the Twinkies and Ding Dongs and stuff. So I go in there, I open up a brand new box of Ding Dongs, and it was like a dog. I mean, I like ripped off the foil and I shoved them in my mouth, you know, and ate as quick as I could, and then crawled up in these little bunk beds that we had in the pop-up camper. So sometime in the middle of the night I get sick, and I roll over and like throw up on my dad, which quickly turned into Daddy's Ding Dong Cabin. That was the name of the camper, of the story, and it evolved to the point where my dad was holding like a revolver to my head, trying to get me to throw up on him for sexual purposes.
That was his kink. That was very odd kink. Hold a revolver in his hand.
Throw up that ding dong thing, buddy. Trying to time it out, come on.
We had several scenarios. We had you and Whitney doing something, your sister at one point too.
Yeah.
Something about you being eye level with her C-section scar. We were fond of putting you in that position.
Just fucking crying.
That happened on the radio, and we almost get fired for saying the Coors Light twins were sluts.
Yes. Yes.
Seriously.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's the weekend. I'm telling you, it was the weekend.
So, other moments that I really remember, there was one where, do you remember when we would do this thing where one of us would call up, pretend to be some character that we just talked about in the news, and so there were just these completely improv bits, and there was one where you were trying, or I think I was Dennis DeYoung from Styx. You were trying to convince Dennis DeYoung to commit suicide on the air. Of course, I'm portraying him as if he's like, 14 years. What? I should do it? Okay, I got my dad's gun. Now what? Now what? Just manipulating him on the air to commit suicide. I don't even know why I remember that.
Dennis DeYoung.
Dennis DeYoung. That's the thing, is like I have these memories and I have no idea how we got there to that scenario, but there was another one where there was a rat that held a press conference. There was a rat, a story about a rat that ate off a baby's face in a crib. Remember that?
Yeah.
And for some reason the rat decided to have a press conference on the ticket. It was really defending itself, that it was in the right. Horrible. Then of course the lobster claw baby arm debate.
Yeah.
That's one of the classic debates, is you had to choose.
What was the woman's name? The newscaster, Bree
Walker.
Bree Walker, that literally had lobster claws. Yeah, but that's what it was. What we eventually called it, and I mean that was another crime moment.
The number one all time for me, and I don't know how to handle this sensitively at all. I guess it was on the radio, so it doesn't matter. Was definitely the Dave Lane bathroom incident where his last grasp for life was ripping off the footprints plaque that his parents gave him.
So the scenario was that somehow, this was the thing, is like Dave is like one of these slow kids that you can convince to do anything.
And they'll admit to anything on the air.
Yeah,
too.
and so you ask him questions and he'll admit to stuff, and then of course we build a whole show around it after he's admitted to something, and he admitted that he would, wait, how do you handle this? How do we talk about it on the air? That he would,
No, this is a different story.
so he would commit self-gratification in the bathroom, standing over the toilet, okay?
For sanitary reasons.
Yes, that part's not unheard of, I guess, but he admitted that in order to save water sometimes after when he had gone bad bathroom, he would stand up and turn around and then do this. You only have to flush once. So we were just appalled by this. As you can imagine, like, how can you possibly maintain sexual arousal looking at that?
But then didn't we tag him as like what if he was known as like this great environmental leader? Saving
Like the stickers you can put on your car of his silhouette standing over the toilet.
He's winning all these awards, being green.
So we had the whole soundboard just champions him and every speech. Here's the guy who actually jerks at standing over a bowl of dog. 2 gallons of water. So
The scenario played itself out.
So we had the whole scenario where he was standing there and at the apex of pleasure, his knees buckle and he starts falling, and he grabs a hold of the shower curtain and starts riding it down one ring at a time until he falls and he kneed the wicker wastebasket. His knee do that, and then he reaches up to try to steady himself and he pulls the cross-stitch footprints poem.
And then he ends up hitting his head on the faucet in the shower, bleeds out and dies. That's how his body is.
And his mom's like in there going, see, I know Jesus meant a lot to him. He's holding the footprints.
I think somebody said, I guess he wasn't carrying you tonight, dude.
Oh, gosh.
Oh my God, that was my number one all time.
That was funny.
And then I told him, why would these that particular Davy woman always get retold every year at Barktoberfest?
For some reason, we always tell
It
him.
was like 2 hours of Davy stories that he would just sit there
And
and...
he goes quiet. He like regrets that he ever told us that. And then so he has to sit there for the next hour as we're cackling like this, telling the story again and again.
Adding stuff.
adding stuff as we go along. And now, what was the footprint story again? Danny, come on. So that was a funny moment. And Corby, of course, offended many listeners when I think it was the hypothetical about Jimi Hendrix. Do you remember this?
Oh yeah.
What were the choices offered to you?
The hypothetical was, all right, you can play guitar, like, you scour the room here real quick.
That was a good joke, but you have to look over your shoulder first.
You play guitar like Jimi Hendrix, you are a god, and you are known instantly as like the greatest guitar hero of all time, and people just look at you in awe as you walk down the street. But you have to be full-blown Mandarin Chinese.
And at first, I think the other option was, or you're just you. And Corby chose to just be himself rather than be the Chinese Jimi Hendrix.
The greatest guitar player that ever
Greatest
lived.
guitar player ever lived. Revolutionized the instrument. And you chose to just be yourself. And so, as we do with hypotheticals, you have to keep altering them until you get that level of equilibrium that makes the choice really hard. And we had downgraded to where Corby was severely handicapped himself. He still chose himself over the Chinese Jimi Hendrix. Then we gave him the choice of Chinese Jimi Hendrix or suicide, and he chose suicide.
It's not true.
You're a jerk, man. It's not
There was one time when there was a story that we were talking about that we were laughing about it. It was at a zoo, like in Cincinnati or something like that.
I'm still pissed about this.
And like one of those little kiddie trains went off the track, that was carrying a load of kids or whatever. And I don't even know the end of the story. Well, I was like, look, Dave and I are going to go in there and do a bit real quick where we're going to put together like a train sound effect and animal sound effects, and we're going to write some jokes for it. Boom, it'll take 5 minutes, we'll play it on the other side of the break.
This is like right at the beginning of the show.
Right at the beginning of the show, first
I'm
segment.
going to turn around a bit real quick
Yeah,
for you.
this show's a couple hours long. We go in that fucking production room, and we don't come out for like 2.5 hours. And meanwhile, we can hear
I'm
him.
by myself.
We can hear him, and he's just like taking calls.
Let's go to John and Garland again.
Nobody. Jordan couldn't be better.
Nobody. So finally they show up with this. I keep going in there every break. What's going on? We almost got it. We finally found the sound effects. How many we got it? Okay, fine. All right, I'll go do another segment. And then come back in there. Where's the bit? We realized the tape messed up. We got it now.
We realized like midway through that it was the worst piece of shit. We were not committed. We had to keep going, And then it got to the point where we were laughing so hard at how bad it was and how he was going to freak out. Yes, yeah. It was like a minute and a half.
It was a short bit. So finally, at the end of the show, they come in with this bit, and they didn't tell me how bad it was. And we play it, and I just realized that I have wasted 2 hours of my life waiting for this bit. It was so horrible. Do you have that? The St. Louis train bit? I mean, seriously, you guys would listen to it and go, there's not one joke in this.
No.
Huh?
Do you remember what it was?
It was Corby, who was the train engineer, and he's sitting on the train, and I think he had an ethnic voice too. I don't know. But hey, kids, look over here. Look at the funny monkeys over here, and look at the funny zebras and
Like animal sound effects.
yeah. They didn't even find actual sound effects. They just threw it. And you can hear it, it's like he's at the same distance from the microphone.
Yeah, so it doesn't
it's
sound
like
like
Corby
far
saying,
off.
yeah, here's the funny monkeys. And look at the zebra.
This is what they sound
This one,
like.
whatever animal that Corby called out, Dave is hearing it for the first time. And
It was the biggest waste of time ever. But God, it was funny. It was so
I'm
funny.
still pissed at you guys for that.
The blood cannons, that was right before I got married, so it would have been in 2000. And then, like the week before, we were talking about how lovely the wedding was going to be. something like that.
Mhm.
But, and then it devolved into,
How did the blood thing come into
I don't know.
Can you share with me where I wanted? We were trying to give you ideas because we wanted you to trick up your wedding.
Yeah.
Spice up the reception.
Yeah, spice everything up. And remember, we wanted to get blood packets sewn into Julie's train.
Yeah.
To where she would walk down the aisle and there was just a smear of red. And when y'all said "I do," we wanted to have 2 blood cannons fly off. Oh God, how do we even come up with that stuff? I don't know. The show is so funny. We really should do it again because we're counting these things 20 years later, or however long it's been, we're still dying laughing at them. And we would have stuff like this every weekend, it seems like. There would be some idea that someone would come up with, and then all of us would start piling on, making it more convoluted and more tricked up. And we would always leave the studio with our bellies hurting because we laughed so hard. It was a fun show. It really was a fun show. And I'm surprised how many people still remember it and still bring it up when they come up to us. And now we're doing a freaking symposium about it. It's something else important. All right, questions. We didn't do questions. Did we do questions yet?
Oh, we did like one.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Who's got the next question?
This man.
Yes, sir.
Those Felicity Dawson Creek promos.
Oh, they started there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
They started on the rant.
Yes.
Remember, every once in a while y'all do like a recount, and y'all like, these are the ones we're allowed to play now, and the ones y'all play are like,
Yeah.
pretty
Pretty.
part for this. So what are the real bad ones?
Well, it seemed like
They all had to one-up each other.
right. That's the problem
Every
is that
time.
The heroin dose has to keep getting higher. And well, which ones played on the air? Was the
We did 1 million of them.
because there was Marco, which I don't even think appeared in whichever show this was.
Gilmore Girls.
Real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, you got AIDS. We were obsessed with AIDS.
Marco was. No, he had it, and he was obsessed with giving it to the guild or giving
People
Yeah.
AIDS. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Do you have that, Jeremy?
Tonight, a special Dawson's Creek.
Dawson, did you get the results of your test back?
Yeah,
What'd the doctor say?
we said I'm eating up with AIDS.
Dawson, you don't even seem to be concerned.
Hey, Kimberly, I've beaten acne. I can beat this.
You think that I might have it?
I don't know, but all this AIDS talk has got me horny.
Dawson, how can you think about sex right now?
Right, Kimberly. I should be counting my blessings. 22, hot, and I own my own creek.
Dawson, let's do it.
I knew you couldn't resist.
Kimberly is so easily swayed.
Tonight, on all new Dawson's Creek.
And that girl voice of Corby just creeps me out. You have another one here? Because there was
There's
all the
Felicity.
shows. There was Felicity, Seventh Heaven, and Dawson's Creek.
Oh, Seventh Heaven was.
New Felicity.
Felicity, I need to break up with you.
Why?
Because I got AIDS.
He announces,
Why did you need to break up with her?
breaks up with her, and then he goes button wire on himself.
Tonight, on a special secret episode of Gilmore Girls. Hey, Gilmore Girls!
Yes, Marco!
I've been reading the Bible lately.
That's good, Marco!
Yeah, but right after Deuteronomy, they left out a verse.
What's that, Marco?
AIDS.
Yeah. What?
Corby, there's no doubt that's hilarious, but are you proud of that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, back. Yeah.
You run through the Rocco call? Or your thoughts?
The Rocco call?
Oh, God.
Yeah, we just talked about that on the big round table. I forgot about that. So Rocco, for those of you who don't remember, was a talk show host that was on in the middays, and he didn't get along with really anyone at the time. And he called up the Rant one time when we went like 2 hours commercial free as Rocco scorched the earth, and he got fired that following Monday. So yeah, it was, Rocco turned out to be a good guy. He was a big fan of the station later on, and he got to be friends with a lot of us later on. But during his time here, it was oil and water, but we ended up getting along. But yes, he hung himself on the Rant, basically. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
On White Elephant Day, Danny talked about truths here in Bordeaux. You just told the Dave Lane story, but you mentioned the Doogie story. What was that?
The time that Doug Anderson admitted to sticking a big pan up his ass. On the air. Right?
Yeah. Was it on the air?
I think it was.
I can't remember if it was on the air or not, but yeah, just once again, hey, Doogie, you ever done anything, kind of crazy that you, maybe, when you're real worked up, did you ever do anything crazy? Well, I don't want to talk about that stuff on the air. No, it's okay. Oh, okay. One time I was real horny and stuck a spoon up my ass. He told that on the air, and of course he never lived that down.
Anytime he referred to it.
Right. He's still known as the guy who stuck him. This little girl, so paying attention anymore. Giving her enough Benadryl that she's fine there. All right, anybody else? Yes, ma'am or sir? I can't see back there.
It's a woman.
Ma'am.
For Danny, going back to the beginning of that brutal rhythm, who are your influences back there?
That brutal rhythm?
What is that brutal rhythm?
From the Rant theme, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Who are your musical influences?
They're really funny to me. I just was trying to come up with something as insane as the show and fell a little bit short, but yeah, I don't know. It's just something insane. It was Corn, maybe.
It's a great theme song. It still holds up. Yes, sir.
About St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, yeah, the St. Patrick's Day
Stan's
thing.
Blue Note.
So that was a Rant thing, right, originally?
Yeah.
And then it later...
Yeah, Davey and I carried out a tradition.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that would get out of
It
control,
was
too.
the best way to experience St. Patrick's Day because I lived literally 10 houses from Stan's at the time. Just you get up, walk over 5 minutes before the show.
And we broadcast from on top of the roof of Stan's Blue Note, which is a bar down there off of Lower Greenville. And so it was great because we would sit up there and we'd send somebody down with a wireless microphone to interact with the crowd, and you could just call out who you wanted to interact with.
We would always send Dave because it was real awkward.
He
He never did it, and then he would go down there and it was just...
He'd make a fool out of himself,
Yeah.
try to get him slapped, and feed him all kinds of lines that he would repeat like an idiot. It was funny. Yeah, those are great shows. I forgot about those. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
You talked about not coming close to losing your job or not, but what their sponsors that you lost from different scenarios you did on there? Or
There's one that we tried to lose. I remember this. I don't remember if you guys know this, but I guess whatever the show was before me, I think at that time. What was it?
He's about the Beanie Babies?
Yeah, I'm talking about, but I thought I inherited that segment from some other show. So there was a sponsor, his name was JW, and he used to sell collectibles. And he somehow had brokered this deal where he got a 10-minute commercial on Saturday mornings, in which you would bring JW on and he would talk about the latest collectibles and Beanie Babies and football cards and so on. And they threw this on the Rant. Well, I didn't want any part of that. I'm like, why am I doing a 10-minute long commercial? But you would have these questions fed to you that you were supposed to ask him. And there were a few times I think where he did get mad at us because we would go off script and, you know, ask if the Princess Diana bear had a head injury. I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, it was like a 10-minute commercial. And so yeah, back then when we were young, we did not quite have the self-control that we probably should have as far as taste goes. You would have never heard any of those AIDS followed by a gunshot thing if we did. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, with all the wild ass things you guys say, what, you know, kids or siblings or family members, what do they have to say about kind of what you guys do?
That show? There's a reason that I quit the minute my kid was born.
I mean, siblings or anything like that. Even now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my parents live around here, but they know not to listen to anything. My sister doesn't live here, so she didn't hear about us having sex in a swing or whatever. Be one intro. That was another thing that was. Oh, there were two things that I remember. One was the David Burrell incident, which happened on the Rant, right?
Yeah, that was when I kept pissing him off to where and he tore up the ticker room, throwing stuff around.
Because at the time the ticker was different, and like we would throw it. It was the first thing in the break, right?
Yeah.
Where you would throw it to the guy.
Yeah.
And
you would give like a tease. You know, the Cowboys make a big move. Here with more is David Burrell.
Right. Well, Gordon got to the point where he would never say David Burrell's name.
I think I said like Dave Burrell or something, you know, just being casual. And he got pissed at that. Like, it's such a common nickname for David, isn't it? And he got, his name is David Burrell.
Yeah.
I go by David Burrell. Well, of course, that sets me off. And throughout the show, his name kept changing. Here's D. Burrell. Here's
Ticker Guy.
Here's Ticker Guy. And
Human.
The final, yeah, here's Human.
I think the final one was here's carbon-based life.
He knew it was coming, but you could see in the ticker room, and we were separated. I mean, it was like we had a studio in here, and the ticker room was back by the back of the room.
Totally different room, yeah. You could see.
And he goes, "Here's carbon-based life," and you just see papers just fucking exploding.
He was so mad. And the bad thing is, I was in the perfect position because I could throw it to, you know, here's Human. And he had to do a ticker after that. So you can see him trying to read, and he's turning all red and everything. He's just about to explode. In the last carbon-based life form, he did explode and threw everything everywhere.
Did he do the ticker? Did he do the ticker?
It was like a 20-second pause before he made it speak. Yeah. It was great. So bad. Yes, anybody else? I knew we'd run out of questions. Yes, sir.
I'd like to give Corby the opportunity in this forum to apologize for Hey Dill.
Yeah, that happened on the Rant.
That's him.
That's Dill?
All right, to reset all this here.
Oh my God.
I know we just played that the other day, the Hey Dill moment. You have it? Okay, you go ahead and play it.
So they use these actors without their permission. And I don't think there's anything to do with this since they're public figures. Hey, Dill, I got it T-vote, okay? What are you doing? Would you
No one
shut
knows
up?
what just happened, Corby. No one knows what
Corby
just
was
happened.
given a K-State update in his ear.
What are you doing? There's a reason all these teenagers
Calm
are
down, he didn't know.
Okay, well, don't. If I wanted to watch it, I'd be watching it. TV's on.
Jeez, he didn't mean it. Anything bad by it?
God, I've got it T-vote. I'm going over to
Well,
Grace
he
to
didn't
watch
know it.
I know.
He didn't know it. Don't
I know.
yell at him. Jason said in our ear that K-State scored. So what's the score right now?
All right, so anyway,
Corby sounds like he had a helium sandwich.
so Jason, why did you give me the score?
We're a sports station!
So, I I'm a big Nebraska Cornhusker fan. I hate OU. Better dead than
See,
Cedar Red.
I knew it. I knew this was something.
K-State Scores was an opportunity to give a little dig at OU Corby.
I knew it. I flipping knew it all along. I had every TV off in there. I mean, everything was just perfect. And then, hey, K-State's up 7-0. Because if OU would have scored, you would not have said a word, right?
No.
I knew it.
Now there's a 6-foot pickle in the other room right now.
Deal.
Hey, Jason, I am sorry.
The best part of that was at the end of the show where we hit the elevator at the same time. We're going down the elevator, and Corby gives me that kind of Corby look. Says, I accept your apology.
Oh God, that's great. That wasn't the only time I think that did you yell at Expo? Was that on the hard line?
Yeah.
Was that on
Hard line, yeah.
Okay, that was the.
He had to get dumped.
Do we have that? When he yelled at Expo and called him a phrase I'd never even heard anyone call before. Expo was a little bit heavy set.
Yeah, I called him gravy tits. I'm not proud of any of this. I'm proud of the bits we did. My explosive temper.
Corey, can you clarify, did you mean dill pickle or the female?
No.
He meant the rigid female pleasure device.
All right,
I
Gordon.
believe the proper term is dildo.
Why did Norm say that?
Gordon, we're both on a round table up there.
Oh, we are. Well, thank you guys.